Would you like to be somebody who understands what my answer to the question of how are you doing is? Then listen to the end of this video where I explain how I usually answer with I'm doing normal. And obviously I don't want to be depressed, but I also don't want to be ecstatic. And I'll explain why in this video. So before we get into it, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, Jungian psychology, and how to reduce suffering in life. Let's get into it. So obviously, it's a very basic question. How are you doing? You ask it when you meet somebody or they ask it to you. Now, I tend to take the question quite seriously, like they literally want to know, people want to know how I'm doing, and it's a bit different between the United States and Europe. I think in the United States it's just sort of etiquette to ask somebody how are you doing. It's a synonym for hello. You don't actually expect somebody to tell you, their sort of track record of emotions for the past day or something. But in Europe it's more literal and people actually respond then, or I think it's nice to respond honestly. Now, I tend to answer, I'm doing normal. Like somebody else say, how are you doing, Henry? I say, normal. People very often laugh about this because it's quite an unusual reply. People usually say, yeah, I'm doing great, I'm doing fine, or whatever. But I say I'm normal because I mean it. Now, what does normal constitute? Normal, for me, is a net positive baseline level of emotions, feelings, experiences. What does that mean? Let's break it down. When I say it's net positive, if I were to quantify all the emotions, the feelings I've had of the day, so I'd add up all of the positive feelings and emotions and subtract all the negative ones, in the end, I would have a positive amount. So the sum of the positive emotions and feelings outweigh the sum of the negative emotions and feelings. That's what normal means to me. That's what net positive means. So on average, I experience more positivity than negativity. And how do I achieve this? It's very simple. Of course, when I mean a net positive baseline level, I'm feeling normal. I'm not talking about I just experienced the meaning of life. I'm talking about day to day, because you don't experience the meaning of life every single day. Day to day, like life really constitutes mundane day-to-day activities, really routines you do every day, and that's what I'm talking about here. So how do I achieve this? I say the way I feel net positive is being productive, being disciplined, looking forward to something, that's really important, and also just goofing around. I walk through my house just goofing. When I wake up in the morning, I go down and say hello to my dogs for like 2 minutes. I embrace them and serenade them with weird sounds or singing, and they love it, That's just like what I do. It's these small things that just, make me feel kind of cool, make me feel like, just a bit warm or nice inside. That's really it. Okay, so let's move on. So what is a baseline? When I say a net positive baseline level, I'm talking about my mood, emotions, and feelings oscillate between sort of slightly above and slightly below this baseline. If it's net positive, so if neutral is here, so if you experience the same amount of positive and negative emotions in a day, it'd be here, but my net positive is slightly above it. It's somewhere above, So the baseline level is here. So this is neutral, this is the baseline level, and I oscillate between up and above roughly across the day. Sometimes I feel a bit better, sometimes I feel a little like less good. So it's slightly above neutral, this baseline level. And this is good because the baseline level rests in a range that is achievable. So I can consistently achieve this net positive baseline level. It doesn't take too much to reach it. Being disciplined, being productive, looking forward to something, doing sports, going outside, learning and stimulating myself intellectually. That's really it. It does not take a lot. And that's great because it's stable. Whereas people tend to aim at sort of permanently feeling joy or, ecstatic happiness, being in a state of rapture. But what goes up must come down. This high volatility makes life more confusing, I think, because when you're in a state of rapture, you by default cannot remain there. Like biologically, you cannot remain at a peak. If it's a peak, after the rise, the ascent comes a descent. That's just a law of nature, I would say. It's in some sense, it's physics, really. So, hence you'll crash after this ecstatic level of joy. And that decline makes you feel bad because comparatively, when you decline, you think, but I was so ecstatic and felt such joy beforehand, but now I'm declining again. And that comparison makes you feel like, ugh, that sucks, you know? Because you compare it to how you felt before, and even when you're returning to actually still a net positive baseline level, that decline makes you feel bad. And it's this volatile shifting between positive and negative that is, I don't want to say it's like confusing, but it's just kind of exhausting, I think. And if you do that on a day-to-day level, it's just, I think it's very, exhausting, but also it costs you energy, essentially. I think that's what it is, and I don't think that's very, like, efficient in the long term. Yeah. Hence, I think it's pleasant to live at a net positive baseline level because you avoid these extreme feelings. And I'm not saying intense feelings are good. I love intense feelings. It's awesome because I also cry sometimes, and I also feel ecstatic. Yet, it's not this volatile kind. It's not this constant up and down. It's more, I don't want to say rare, but it's valuable because it comes at special moments. That's how I would describe it. Yeah. And you want to find a level that's achievable. That's really the key here, is find a baseline level, a mood that is achievable and is net positive. And that's why I enjoy, I'm quite happy or pleased that I've found that baseline level, I think, yeah. And of course, I'm not saying it's permanently like that. Sometimes I do have low, down periods where I'm really not feeling well. And, those do happen for sure. Yeah. But I think on average, I tend to be in this net positive baseline level range. So in conclusion, when people ask me, Henry, how are you doing? I reply with normal. And what normal constitutes for me is this net positive baseline level. So on average, I experience more positive emotions and feelings and experiences than negative, and at a level which I can sustain and consistently exist around. So it doesn't take much to reach that level. I just stimulate myself intellectually, get out, be active, take care of my health, and hang out with my family and friends, and that's really it. Yeah. So I hope you could learn something from this attitude, or this my sort of perspective on how to exist on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. So please leave a comment below where you tell me how you tend to reply to when somebody asks you, how are you doing? What's your answer? Depending on how you feel or whatever. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, Jungian psychology, and how to reduce suffering in life. Thank you for listening.